Hi there, so it's Wednesday and we're going to start off with just a little number puzzle thing before we move on to the main thing, which is going to be simplifying fractions. But we're going to look at it initially and to a fairly large extent from the point of view of percentages. Okay, because percentages are actually a kind of fraction. Right, so here's our problem. 3 of the numbers in the box add up to 60, but can you find which 3 they are and how quickly can you do it? So pause it and have a go. Now I haven't done it yet, but what I'm going to be thinking to myself is if 3 numbers are adding up to 20, because 60 divided by 3 is 20, I'm going to look for the 3 closest numbers to 20 that I can see, and I'm going to be looking for to have 1 or 2 of them above and 1 or 2 of them below. So I can see that 23 is pretty close, and that's above. So if I've got that one above, what's the one closest to it that's below? There's just 11 and 13, so at least one of those numbers has got to be involved. So I'm going to put the 13 in there. Now 23 is 3 above 20. So 13 is 7 below. So I need to carry on. I would need a 24 to be there to make 60. Is it there? I can't see it. I can see 25. So maybe not that one. How about if I changed out the 11 and change out the 13 for the 11? That's 9 below. So then that would get us 6 different. Does that help? Is there a 26 there? There isn't. So it's not, 23 is definitely not to do with it. What other things can I think? I'm thinking that as it's going to be 60, I'm looking for the 3 end digits to end up so that we've got a 0 at the end. So I've got 6, 3 and 1. What if I had 13 and 11 and 36, which is quite a bit more? That gives me 10, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I've got there. So I was guessing a bit, but I was thinking about it, and I got there on my 3rd go by thinking different ways that I can think about numbers, and that's the sort of thing that's going to help you out solving all sorts of problems. Okay, it's time for us to move on to simplifying fractions from percentages. So we're going to kick off with this question. What do you think? What does the word percentage mean? Now, some of you may know exactly what it means. I've put it into 3 different parts in different colours because what it means, I don't know how many of you are fans of the Romans, the ancient Romans, and the sorts of things they got up to. Some of them weren't so nice actually, but they were responsible for all sorts of things. And one thing was they spoke a special language called Latin, and the word percentage comes from there. I don't know if they invented percentages. I don't think so. I think it's probably a bit later than that. But anyway, per is the Latin word that means out of. Per is out of. Or we could think of it divided by. Oh, divided by. So if you say per or out of something in maths, that means it's being divided. So per, and we talk about miles per hour, don't we? And that means the distance, the miles divided by the hours. So if you went 120 miles in 2 hours, you would have gone 120 divided by 2, 60 miles per hour as your speed. So per means out of. And cent, you may, if any of you have ever been to America, you have dollars, but those dollars are divided into 100 cents, and it's the same with the euro actually, if you've ever been to France or Spain or anywhere in Europe. So cent means 100. So per cent, I'm not sure what the edge bit means, to be honest, but percent literally means out of 100 or divided by 100. So if I said I had 50%, and this symbol here, by the way, is a cunning reminder that it means divided by 100, because they used to write 50% as 50 divided by 100, and then mathematicians didn't want to spend lots of time writing divided by 100, so they realized that the division symbol has got a straight line and two little circles, and 100 has got a straight line and two circles, so they married them together to make a kind of shorthand of the two. So when you say 50%, you're actually saying 50 divided by 100, or 50 over 100. So we could say 50% equals 50 divided by 100, which we could write as a fraction. And you know I've been telling you to call fraction your friends, because 50 over 100, if we were to simplify that, which is what we're going to be doing today, that would mean looking for a number that goes into both of them. Now we could halve them both and say 25 over 50, but if the top number goes into the bottom number, we can divide them both by that. So 50 goes into 50 once, and it goes into 100 twice. So 50 is half of 100, which is why we call 50% a half. Now we have been doing lots of different pictures of fractions and things, haven't we? So we're going to continue with that idea now, just to think another way, in case that out of 100, if we could, if we wanted to, think about it in terms of a big square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So why am I drawing a 10 by 10 square to think about percentages here? Let's have a little look at that. Bring it into focus. And there we are. Right, so the reason is there's 100 little squares in here. So if I wanted to shade in 50%, I could just draw a line across the middle. Now I could do this for any number that goes into it. For example, you can divide 100 into 5 equal bits, because we've got 10 squares across there. So if I go down, every 10 divided by 5 is 2. So if I draw down every 2 like that, and then I get my highlighter, except I can't find my highlighter, so let's go with a crayon, and I decide I'm going to have a look at 1/5, I've actually shaded in 20 squares out of 100. And what we're saying when we simplify the fraction is to say, well, if we had smaller numbers, what could we say? So if we divided top and bottom by 20, we've got 1/5, and we can see it's 1/5 there. And that's also 20%, isn't it? So that's why 20% is 1/5 of something. Now I've zoomed back out, and I've zoomed back out for a very good reason. And that's because when it comes to simplifying a percentage, all we need to do is start off by turning it into a fraction, which it kind of almost already is, just by putting whatever number your percentage is over 100. But then you need to divide by whatever number goes into the number you're talking about, and 100. Now if that number goes into it, you'll end up with 1 over something, but otherwise you might end up with something else. Now before we do that, what I'd like you all to do is write down 100 and see if you can find all the factor pairs of 100, because the pairs are going to help us. So you'll always have 1 and 100. I'm just going to put the arms in for now and give you a little bit of time to see if you can work out which numbers go with it. Now, it's going to be 2 with something. Right, so 2 with 50. Then 3 doesn't go in, but 4 does. Half the number of 4s as we have 2s, because 4 is double that. So 4 and 25. And then because it ends in 0, 5 must go into it, mustn't it? And we just did that. 1/5 was 20, didn't we? So 5 times 20. Then 6, 7, 8 and 9, they don't go in. But I've got 2 legs coming together here, because 10 times 10 makes 100, which is the reason that 10% is 1/10, and we can divide by 10 to find 10%. So we're going to be using these to help us out. And I'm going to put a few problems up here, and then I'd like you to pause the video once you see them and give it a go. So here you go, pause the video and have a go now. Right, if you haven't done anything, then write equals and write each of these numbers over 100. Do that now. So if this was in a test, you'd get 1 out of 2 for doing what I've just done. You've just written the number that is the percentage over 100. The next thing you need to do is simplify. And as all of these numbers, our numerators, go into 100, you can divide top and bottom by that, and you'll get 1 over something. Divide by 25 is equal to 1 over 4. If you haven't done the others, pause the video and do it now, because I'm about to put them up. So now I've just put up the numbers you're going to divide top and bottom by for each one, and in a moment I'll put the final solutions. And voila, there you go. So have a little look and see if you notice some patterns in the numbers. Because there are 4 25s in 100, the 25 has become a 4 there, and the 4 has become a 25 there, hasn't it? 4 is a very small percentage of 100, it's 1/25, whereas 25, being more, is as big as 1/4 of it. And then as we go down, we get the same sort of idea going on. And you'll notice, hopefully, all the factor pairs, so that you've got the 5 and the 20, 5% and 20% sort of going together. And that's because 5 times 20 makes 100. Right, okay. I'm going to put some more up now, which aren't necessarily going to end up with 1 on the top. Here you go, there's 5 more, but remember, if you're a little bit stuck, you get 1 mark straight away for just writing the number over 100. Then think about what you're going to do next. Which should get you to this, and then you've got to think about what numbers can you divide by. What's the biggest number that you can think of that goes into your numerator, your top number, that also goes into 100? So have a go at that, and I'll put the next stage on in a moment. Now here's all the biggest numbers, so see if you can have a go at simplifying them now, and I'll go through it in a moment. Right then, so there are 3 25s in 75 and 4 25s in 100. So 75% is 3/4. You probably know that one anyway. But 12%, 4 goes into it, which gives us 3 over 25 fours make 100. So 3/25. You may have done that. But you may have said, I know that I can halve them both, so I've got 6 over 50, and then in that case you would have just needed to halve them again to get to 3 over 25, and there's nothing wrong with doing it that way, but it can take longer. Again here, 20 goes 3 times into 60 and 5 times into 100, so we get 3/5. You may notice a bit of a pattern coming on now. How many 5s are there in 15? 3. And 25s in 100. And the last one, how many 10s are there in 30? 3. And how many 10s in 100? 10. So there's all kinds of ways I could make patterns up for a bunch of questions on percentages. I'm going to do another bunch for you and see if you can spot the pattern before I show you. So here you go. There's a number that connects all of these questions, but don't worry about it too much at first. See if you can spot it when you do. Go through the same process as before, and in a few moments I will start to go through it. So you start by putting them all over 100, and then you've got to say to yourself which number goes into both the numerator and the denominator, so the top number and the bottom. So pause the video and see how far you get. Right, so 5 goes into 35 and 100. There's not many numbers to look for. You've only got to check if any of these numbers goes into 100, because if they don't, you can't do anything. So 5 goes 7 times into 100, and it goes 7 times into 35 and 20 into 100. Dividing by 10 this time. 10 tens make 100, so it's tenths, and 10 sevens make 70, so it's 7 tenths. 28 and 100, well, they are both even, so it's 2, but it's more than 2. You can actually divide them both by 4. So well done if you spotted that in one go. 7 fours make 28, and 25 fours make 100. I wonder if you can see what I've done this time. And then 2 is the only number that goes into 14 apart from 7, because 7 twos make 14 and 14 itself. So this is going to be 7/50ths. And the one on the bottom was a bit of a trick question, because actually, because 7's a prime number and it doesn't go into 100, there's nothing else that'll go into them both. So when you wrote 7 over 100, you'd already got it completely right. Okay, now in terms of where we're going to go to finish it off, we're just going to move away slightly from percentages for the last few, and I'm just going to give you a few fractions and see whether or not you can simplify those for me. Right, here you go, just 4 fractions. So write them down and then see if you can find a number that goes into them both that you can do it by. Great, now you may well have written 2/6 for this one. If you've got 2/6, you've got halfway there, because you can divide both of these by 4 to get 1/3. 2/6 is the same thing, but to get full marks you need to get them as well. Now 9 is not even, so you cannot halve it, but 3 goes into 9, so you always have to look out for other numbers when you're simplifying, not just even and halving. 9 divided by 3 is 3, 30 divided by 3 is 10, so it's 3/10. 15 over 40, so 5 goes into both of those. We know 5 goes into any number ending in a 5 or a 0, don't we? 3 5s make 15, 8 5s make 40. And the final one, now you may have ended up, this is what you may well have done, you may have said, right, I'm going to halve that, quite hard work, halve it to 18, halve it to 21. I may have stopped there, I don't know. Actually, these numbers are both in the 3 times table, so 6 3s are 18 and 7 3s are 21. What do 2 times 3 make? This is always true, by the way. If you can take more than one step to get there, it's absolutely fine. 6/7 is totally right. But if you do it in one go, you save yourself time. Divide by 2, then divide by 3 is the same as dividing by 2 times 3 is 6. And if you know your 6 times table, you'll know that 6 is in both of them. So we could divide top and bottom by 6. 36 divided by 6 is 6. 42 divided by 6 is 7. So there we go. That's all done for today. Tomorrow I'm going to ask you to upload an answer to a specific question I give you. But for today, if you could just upload some evidence of doing some of this, whichever bit you liked most. All right. Cheerio.